Welcome back to the Charismatic Voice. It's only recently, due to your recommendations, that I've discovered the great delight of grunge music. Now, we have together touched on many of the foundational bands in grunge, but we've yet to hear Stone Temple Pilots. That's going to change today, beginning with Plush. Let's get to it. Okay, we're going to stop now. And of course, we're going to be going back to the beginning so that we can really get into and analyze those great moments, understand them better. Few things that I noticed right off the bat that I think are really cool. First one was this chromaticism in the piece. There's lots of half steps that are together. I think there's a bass line in there that's going down a chromatic scale, essentially. That gives a lot of tension, but they've done it in a way that sounds really digestible at the same time. It doesn't just sound like a horror film, right? They've adjusted the chords with a chromatic line in between them, and that's really cool. It has tension in it, but also resolution at times. And then additionally, just this first impression of Scott Weiland's voice, he has got more depth in the sound than I think some of the other grunge singers have. I can still hear there's so many what I would call like defined qualities of grunge music in his voice, but he's probably one of the deeper singers overall. I'm going to hear a lot more though. Let's go back. Haha. That's in the guitar, not the bass, excuse me. One of the things that I dig about his voice, other than this sort of, he has a deep quality to it, but he has almost a buzz on it that I'm hearing through the distortion and the way he's creating it. That it sounds even, it doesn't sound like lots of distortion like you would hear in metal. It's more like just a little bit of extra rasp on the sound that he leans into sometimes. And that raspiness brings a sudden brassiness to the sound, which balances out that deep quality that he already has. It's really cool. Just notice the way he forms the vowel on feel. Normally people go feel, right? Oh, it's kind of very forward in my mouth, it's a clean front vowel. He has a little kind of R-shaped sound around it that makes it rounder and sort of enhances that deeper timbre that he has, but it also is very reminiscent then of grunge styling. I really admire the way they weave sections of this together too. It makes it hard sometimes to know where a good spot to stop would be. Not that I'm perfect at stopping. I'm far from. I think I've stopped at some of the absolute worst places I ever could stop at while recording first time viewings of videos. But in this case, they really bridge a lot of the parts into each other. So there's not a clear indication of, oh, this section's finished, this one's finished. But I did find a nice clear section right here. I want to point out a very clear effect he does, which is doing slides off of the ends. He'll sort of toss off the end of each phrase. I'm going to go back. He did it 4 times in a row, very clearly. So. I'm going to go back just a little bit more. I think it's earlier. So tomorrow, he goes tomorrow, and he does a slide off of that. It's a very subtle one at first. It's almost like a half step down. Same thing on Found. It's a slide down, and it feels like it's almost a chromatic slide down. It's not a huge slide. It's just kind of tossing off the end. I like that attack. There you go again on her. And even a little bit on the end of Alone. This kind of sliding off the end is something that you would not see in classical music or perfect vocal training, whatever that is. I firmly believe that you should train to basically communicate the message that you want to communicate. And if that means that you're creating a message that is intended for a classical audience, you should train in that method. But if you're going to be finding a message that's more grunge related, right? Or a message that you want to feel more casual, it depends on the audience you're targeting, and you want to train to be effective for that. So here, all of these slides off at the end, they're breaking classical rules, if you will, right? It's not sticking the pitch and keeping it the whole time. Some people might say it's lazy, but he's intentionally doing it every time. It's a part of his style that's become really incorporated into his singing. So I would counter and say, there's a reason that he's doing this. He likes it because he's doing it so much, right? He must like that stylization. He hears himself on recordings all the time. And there are all kinds of reasons why he could like it. He could say, well, maybe the feeling of the song getting people down, there's sort of a continual descending drop to it. That could be an emotional drop, that something's bringing someone down. It could also be, I just want to have a more casual approach, right? It feels more like the end of many sentences when we go down at the end. So it's a really fascinating and continual stylization that he's using throughout the songs that I've heard so far. The lyrics of this are really perplexing me. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. It feels like it's in a wishy-washy relationship is the best way I can describe it, where, in this last verse, he talked about weather and how things seem to change, and it's raining in the bedroom, and eyes of disarray. It sounds like things have gone wrong in the relationship and they're not being communicated. And but it just sounds like there's a lot of wishy-washiness where there's flipping back and forth, or not a lot of communication about what a person is feeling, or maybe just a lot of confusion about what they're feeling. And then sort of from that other perspective, I hear a lot of anxiety and frustration in his voice. And I think that being on the other side of that relationship, you might be thinking, this is so frustrating. Just tell me what you want, right? And I think especially hearing some of that distortion that he adds into his voice, like there's something about this that gets under your skin about maybe being in that sort of ho-hum point in a relationship that's just so frustrating to people when it feels like it's about to fall apart, but it's sort of in those last efforts of trying. Anyhow, I think there's a ton of different possibilities for how you could interpret the lyrics, which is a good thing. They should be open to interpretation so that people can apply it to whatever their situation in life is. You should definitely let me know in the comments down below how you interpret this song. This is my first stab at it, right? First time hearing it. So I'm just, barely touching the surface. I bet there's a lot more depth to these lyrics. Let's go back just a little bit. When I think about dogs finding someone, I would usually think about somebody who's died that's being sniffed by or chased out by dogs or something. Not sniffed out, sought after by dogs looking for a body. So I wonder if this is actually much, much darker. Very curious lyrics. I'm so perplexed. I wish I knew a lot more about what this song. I wonder if they base it off of a certain historical event or something like this. But the way that you hear him attacking a lot of these phrases, there's so much pent up emotional energy behind it. I feel like there's an even deeper story. I really like this way he sings "Find It" and "You Find It." It's again leaning into those chromatics, but it's almost in an opposite direction from what we heard in that intro, which was really sticky, by the way. That instrumental intro was very sticky. And he goes up in the chromatics instead of where it went down in the chromatics in the intro on "Find It." And it, because of the way it leans into those half steps, it's got a really gnarly effect. Even slides into it. Wow. Rawr. Whoa. Hey! This is that instrumental part from the beginning that I think is really sticky. I think it's unusual to immediately enter a song with a chromatic descent like this. It's just, it tends to have so much tension in it that it's not going to sound like a song you'd want to listen to over and over unless you really like horror films. But just the way they've constructed it makes it feel kind of funky and fun. Ooh, nice. I want to mention a couple other things. When I say grunge styling, I'm talking about a few trends that I've noticed essentially. One of them is that grunge singers seem unafraid of adding some nasality to the sound. You know, if we had a different kind of composition underneath them, they would fit really well into country music. They bring a lot of twang in, essentially. That's, again, you know, if we think about other genres or classical training, you would say, oh, that's too much, but it's not too much for this genre. It works. A lot of times, they'll be directing things through their nose, partly because they're keeping their mouth a little more closed. And I've seen that here with him. You know, obviously we have a music video here, but it looks like they've done sort of takes in and out of a live performance of it to really give us that effect of this is what he looks like when he's singing it for recording as well. And I see a lot of times more closure in the mouth than I would maybe advise somebody who's singing an Italian aria, right? So there's more closure there. And when that mouth is more closed, you tend to have more of the sound direct its way through the nose. The sound is going to exit somehow if you're singing, right? Well, yes, if you're going to have a continual phonation going out, it's got to exit somewhere. And if it's not exiting through the mouth, it's going to try and go exit through the nose. You can, of course, have your mouth open and have it exiting through your nose too, because your soft palate could be down and that would be directing it through the nose in addition to the mouth. But just by having your mouth more closed, it will go more through your nose. So that's one of the key things. I hear some nasality in the sound. And then I hear an unabashed love of diphthongs. Things like oh, which is normally it's two vowel sounds that are pushed into one sound. So O and oo, right? O. And when you have this grunge styling, they'll lean into that second one really heavily. Oh. And I'll go back. There was a really great example a little ways back here of a diphthong that he leans into like crazy. Oh, just a quick call out. I love that one guy's rose-colored shirt matches Scott's hair. Like, that was a great color combination or coordination. That leaned into the diphthong. Oh, that's a spot. I knew there was a spot that was even better. And that's an ow diphthong. So that's going to be a combination of ah and oo. And he goes really nasal with the ow, and he makes it almost like it's almost Portuguese with the nasality of it. It goes straight into the nose, and he leans into the oo, the second part of that diphthong combination, really, really heavily. One more time. Whoa, yeah. I love the way they've incorporated so many mirrors into this music video. Sometimes you have just a straight on view, and sometimes you see them in a distorted mirror, like one of those ones that has crinkles in it. And it makes you feel like reality is somewhat distorted. And then, of course, the woman in the video, we're seeing her look at herself in mirrors a bunch. Anytime you have a mirror, it denotes some sort of introspection or maybe misperception of the world in the way it's being distorted. It's very, very fascinating, especially for, a relatively early music video. I think that's a very effective use. Yeah. Whoa, whoa, first ending. I like these sustained vocals. I've been waiting for him to see if he would go up and sustain some highs a little longer. His voice just sounds like it sits a little lower than like a Lane Staley kind of thing, right? So it sits a little lower, but we still want it to have a peak moment where it really goes up to high note and holds it. That high note can just be relative to whatever we've heard in the piece. So one of the highest points, hold it for a long time. I was waiting for that. I feel very, very happy that we got this at the end where he's sustaining that with that distortion at the same time. Yeah. Right there. I like the way he brought it back down too. Huh. My only wish is that the song was longer. I've been spoiled by metal, I swear. I like it when songs are 7 or 8 minutes or more long. I love getting to go through movements of the song and getting to dive into different pieces of it. And this is a really good song. It's got a lot of catchiness to it, so I wanted to hear those sections even extended further, right? But partly because it's so catchy, it makes me want to go back and listen to it again and again and again. I could feel that the song would become very addictive. And I have to say, I like Scott's voice in it. I think that he brings a nice element of depth to that grunge quality while having the snarliness and the gnarliness combined in it too. It's really good. And I'm very curious about these lyrics. I feel like there are so many directions they could go. So again, please let me know in comments what you think of those lyrics. And if you would like to follow me on this grunge journey that we've been going through, here is a playlist of a bunch of different grunge songs, first times hearing all of these bands. Man, it has been a roller coaster ride. Thank you to all of you for those amazing recommendations. I hope I'll see you in another video soon.